So did you guys have a snack before you went to bed that night?
I forget.
What was JonBenet's favorite snack?
I don't think she has that. I just eat.
And what would a typical snack be? Some moms cut up apples.
Yeah.
What else would she do fruit-wise?
That's all I know. Pineapple.
Pineapple.
Yeah.
So Burke does acknowledge the pineapple. What did Burke say, though, about the knife?
I got nightmares in my head, I fear. Thoughts build up until I can't feel. And my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear. Thoughts build up.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. Who is the most important witness missing from Netflix? Well, besides the Ramsey housekeeper, even more important than her is Burke Ramsey, JonBenet's older brother. I don't often cover Burke Ramsey, firstly because, to be honest, I feel a little sorry for him. You know, he was just 9 years old, about a month shy of his 10th birthday when JonBenet died. And if she lost her life, in a very real sense, he did too. He lost his room, his home, he went to a different school, he had to move to a different town. It's hard to imagine the events didn't permanently scar him, perhaps even ruin his childhood. The second reason I don't often cover Burke is because he's so easily overlooked. In their book, The Death of Innocence, Patsy and John feature prominently on the cover and JonBenet on the back cover, but Burke's nowhere to be seen. I don't think it's an accident, the fact that there's so little information on JonBenet's older sibling, but there's not nothing. In this deep dive, we'll examine one of the rare transcripts we do have, which we have seen, Burke's June 1998 interview with Detective Dan Schuller, which immediately preceded the 13-month-long grand jury investigation in Boulder. Before we get to that, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. Bear in mind, I'm probably quite unique amongst those covering this case on YouTube. I've written 11 books on the case, including 3 trilogies, in the following chronology. The CRAVEN Silence trilogy, which deals with the events leading up to the incident. The Day After Christmas trilogy, which deals with the events immediately after, especially on the day after Christmas. Then there's the highly rated but quite obscure book SEQUIN Star, which deals with the years 2000 to 2006. It's actually a fascinating aftermath to the case. And then beyond 2006 is covered in the Black Star over Bethlehem trilogy. The last book in the series is Christmas Star. I'll put links to those books in the description. There are also audiobooks available for some of those books on Patreon. And if you'd like links to those, let me know in the comments. If you're finding this analysis worthwhile, please like, share, leave a comment. You can also hit the thanks button, and let's get started. Right, so have a look at this transcript of Dan Schuller's interview with Burke Ramsey. He asks him about the knives. Burke Ramsey answers, I have 2. Schuller, you have 2 knives? Burke, I have one that says my name on it. It has Switzerland on it. Schuller, Burke, that one has a big knife, small knife, saw, corkscrew, screwdriver, flathead screwdriver, toothpick, and tweezers. I think that's it. And then I have another one that has a saw, scissors. It's got this little hook thing that you tie knots better with. I said saw, a cork opener. Schuller, both of those Swiss Army knives? Burke, one knife is smaller. Hold on. Did you catch that part? The other knife has a little hook that you tie knots better with. These are Burke's own words, and this suggests that Burke was using one knife to tie knots and perhaps cut cord with. Interestingly, the knife found out in the open in the basement doesn't appear to be that knife. It doesn't seem to be the knife we're looking for. So, where is it? Schuller, where do you normally keep those? In your scouting stuff? Burke, I think I like Inaudible and I have a little place for them in my room. Schuller, did you take them both camping with you? Burke, I just took the... and then he breaks off. Schuller then says, the one with your name on it? Burke, no. Schuller, oh, okay, so somebody must have given you that one for a special occasion. Burke, my mom. Burke seems to shut down at a certain point here, talking about which knife. But it is interesting that Schuller at least gets Burke to admit who gave him the knife. There's also a mention of scouting, but let's leave that for now. Instead, let's go to Patsy's interview in June 1998 to see what she says about the knife. Tom Haney. In the previous interview on the last April, he's talking about April 1997, more than a year earlier, there was some discussion about Burke having a Swiss Army knife. I think at that time, correct me if I'm wrong, you said it had his name or initials on it. Patsy, right. Tom, would he have had any other knives, or would there have been any other Swiss Army type of knives in the house? Did John have any? Patsy, I don't know. I don't remember. Now, do you notice Haney seems to want to talk about the second knife here, not the knife with Burke's name on it, the other knife. And bear in mind, Haney's interview with Patsy takes place on June 23rd, 1998, less than 2 weeks after Burke's interview with Schuller on the 10th, 11th, and 12th of June, 1998. Haney continues, would Burke have had more than just one with his name on it? Can you see how Haney is persisting? He really wants to talk about this evidence. Patsy, it seems like we might have had a little tiny one with a keychain or something, but it might have been, I just remember the red one with his name on it that I got him in Switzerland. Demuth. Patsy, I read somewhere that Burke would walk through the house whittling sometimes. Whittle in the house. Is that true? Patsy, I never saw him walk through the house whittling. That's quite a big statement. Now, I did on occasion in the playroom see little whittling-like wood kind of whittles, you know. Demuth. You didn't ever see him whittle? Patsy, no, I didn't. Demuth. Is there any reason why Burke would have a knife like this? Patsy, no. Do you notice Patsy isn't very helpful on both these topics? She can't seem to remember Burke having a second knife, even though Burke clearly can. And when Haney presses Patsy, she remembers for a moment, only to contradict herself a second later, saying, I just remember the red one with his name on it that I got him in Switzerland. In other words, Patsy doesn't remember the knife that Burke said he used to fashion knots. It's also interesting that Patsy can't seem to remember Burke whittling. On at least 2 occasions, she denies any knowledge of ever seeing Burke whittle. That's a very different account to what the housekeeper said. Lawrence Schiller in Perfect Murder, Perfect Town recounts the housekeeper's statement as follows. Patsy changed purses once a week. She'd lay her purse on the spiral staircase, and I'd clean it out and put it in the closet. She had maybe 40 of them, and even more pairs of shoes. I think the problem with the children was that they didn't have any responsibility. They were spoiled. Now we come to it. Burke had his red scout knife. Now do you notice she doesn't just describe it as a red knife, but a scout knife, a knife specifically used for scout type activities. And she says, with this red scout knife, he was always whittling. This is according to the housekeeper. And so the question then arises, was that whittling to do with some kind of scout activity? According to the housekeeper, he'd never use a bag or paper to catch the shavings. He'd whittle all over the place. I asked Patsy to have a talk with him. She answered, well, I don't know what he'd do other than take the knife away from him. After Thanksgiving, I took that knife away from him and hid it in the cupboard just outside JonBenet's room. That's how that problem was solved. Do you see how strange it is? The whittling got so bad, according to Linda Hoffman Pugh, that she brought it up to Patsy and asked the boy's mother to have a talk with him. Patsy's suggestion on this matter, per the housekeeper, was to take the knife away from him, which the housekeeper apparently did sometime after Thanksgiving. Do you notice Patsy doesn't volunteer any of this information to the officers questioning her? And yet when discussing the evidence in the basement, Patsy says the knife being there in the basement was unusual. Look at this. Demuth. Anything stick out as unusual? Patsy, no. Demuth. You would consider that knife unusual? Patsy. I would consider that unusual. So why doesn't Patsy mention what she knows about the knife? That it was confiscated from Burke and placed in an upstairs cupboard above the sink near JonBenet's room. Now, if Patsy seemed to be unaware of Burke whittling or which knives he used, she certainly seemed to know why Burke would want or need a knife to begin with. Remember, Burke said that Patsy gave him a knife, not just willy-nilly, but even lovingly had his name engraved on it. This suggests Patsy knew it was a big deal to the little boy. And why would Burke need a knife to begin with? Well, here's a clue from Patsy's 1995 Christmas newsletter. By the way, Patsy liked to write missives over Christmas, apparently. In the section dealing with Burke, she writes, Burke is busy in his 3rd grade year at a new school named High Peaks. It is a core knowledge school which accesses high academics and personal achievement. He loves it. He continues with Boy Scouting and the piano. This winter he is the tallest guy on his basketball team. Summer on Charlevoix was spent taking golf and sailing lessons each day. Burke is quite the sailor. Also in the same newsletter, Patsy also makes a teasing comment towards John. She writes, all work and no play make John a dull boy. Do you notice anything about the tone of that statement? Sorry, I can't resist doing a little bit of statement analysis when I see it. Doesn't it sound awfully close to the tone of the ransom note where the intruder writes, use that good southern common sense, John, and don't try to grow a brain, John.
Food for thought.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to check out those links in the description, and I'll see you guys next time.